Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is producer Richard, and across from me is the Doctor himself.
Hello.
Each week, we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you.
Yeah.
Hey, there wasn't like a 15-minute in between the two of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, you're going to find out on Friday. We just ate food and recorded the double first.
Yep. Because that was a smart thing.
It's a bunch of heavy food, too. A lot of breads.
Gravies.
A lot of gravies and meat.
Yeah.
And now we're recording this, so if the energy takes a steep dive off a cliff, that's why.
Yep. And I am like a notorious...
We are Canadian Podcast Award nominees.
and winners.
Yeah, I guess that still counts.
Yeah.
We won. That was last year.
I mean, we better because we haven't really done anything to win this year, so... We put in a lot of effort last year.
Did we, though?
Yeah, we were constantly pushing it and trying to get everybody to do it.
I suppose.
I
just expect you to this year.
Yeah, we did a lot of threatening.
Just know
year.
Daddy will be disappointed if we don't.
I mean, is that a way to get me to not do something?
Oh.
It's like, all right.
Interesting.
We've got a review.
Woo! Why is my instinct to do a crazy woo noise?
Just the spiritual child of Ric Flair.
Woo! Yeah, nature boy, baby.
All right. This is review number 178. 5-star review.
178.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are three numbers that coincide. I'm feeling crazy.
You just gave me the craziest look I've ever
My
seen.
My ears are like hot.
You look like you're hungry for flesh. Yeah, that's the look. That was it. Yeah.
5-star review from Reddit from Golden Ganji. With the subject 5-star review, they say, this podcast will make you feel like you have friends.
Welcome.
Toss it on. Keep up your feet and forget all that pressure to go out and actually meet new people. Who needs to hear from other people more than once a week anyway? Twice a week if you join the sweet, sweet Patreon page. Winky face. Warning, there's a chance that the podcast will make you want to fuck.
I love that. Disclaimer.
Yeah. Disclaimer.
Yeah. Yeah, the D stands for disclaimer. I love that.
Yeah, great review.
Great
Thank
review.
You.
Amazing.
Golden Ganji. Much appreciated. We've gotten a bunch of reviews that are piling up right now, too.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you're all making Daddy proud.
Oh my God.
Keep sending those reviews if you want Daddy's approval.
Or if you don't want Daddy's approval.
Send those reviews also.
Yeah. Daddy's
fickle. Send the reviews and we'll see how he feels.
Yeah, that's right. But either way, I think you're going to like the results.
Jesus. Good Lord.
Depending on what you want and you're consensual.
Yeah, obviously. Of course.
Speaking of a fickle audience, this week's theme.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Right, that's what I meant too. Shit. Oh my God, please don't leave.
Snyderverse.
Yes, yeah. We're talking the Snyderverse.
Holy shit.
You know, we've done episodes on like particular like corners of movies before. We did like the Burton Schumacher verse, like those Batman movies, and we did the Nolan verse before. We're doing the Snyderverse, and I put a few qualifiers out when I asked for questions, and I just want you all to know I never doubted you. Like having questions from like the regular listenership was not the thing that worried me. It was that I was going to type the word Snyderverse online and be like, we want your questions. And I was worried about what torrent would come in. But I have like very well curated, at least my Twitter feed for Dr. DC.
Sure.
To the point where, like, sometimes I see posts from other people that are like, I can't believe all the outrage about this. And I go, what outrage? Because I've really culled
Yeah.
And I used to just go on sprees of just blocking people that had Restore the Snyderverse or whatever, or like release the Snyder Cut. I would just block anyone with that in their profile.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you're listening and I blocked you, that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that somebody I can't remember who pointed it out, but somebody was just like, it's interesting the amount of caveats. But I think that's a good indicator of like how divisive this is.
Yes, extremely. And obviously there's like a whole additional awful element of like the sort of toxic fan culture and you know the hate and the harassment and shit like that. But my hope for this episode and what you all have delivered with your questions is, for the most part, to actually just talk about like, but what was it? What happened in the Snyderverse? What were the things that were good, that were bad, that like could have been kind of outside of the context of whether or not people are yelling?
Yes, absolutely.
So, and we got a ton of questions about it. You have seen all of the Snyderverse movies. You know, this is a rare instance of an episode you've done all of the reading for.
Yes.
Essentially.
Sure, yeah, I have.
So, let's just get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Wrong podcast.
I said let's get into it. Just felt right.
Can't not. All right,
vote for Ghostfacers at the Canadian Podcast Awards for Outstanding Television and Film Series.
Isn't it over now?
Go back in time then. Jesus. Trying to promote us, realizing I didn't do a good enough job before.
I mean, because I said that. Well, let's get into Facebook.
Go do the face and the book. Go do the Facebook.
First question comes from the most interesting resident.
Ooh, Andrew Delgado.
Incorrect.
Fuck.
Who the fuck that is.
Stephen Marion Almagro.
Of course. Who else would it be?
Roland Sebas.
No, I don't know who that is. That's insane. It was only one interesting resident.
Multi Sanchez.
And it's Stephen Marion Almagro.
Almagro.
Who asks, who's the best villain in the DCEU? And no, you cannot answer WB execs.
Yeah. Let's keep it in continuity.
Yes.
Do you have an answer to this? Best villain,
like in the Snyderverse?
Yeah. I mean, the question says in the DCEU. Portions of the DCEU, I would argue, are no longer Snyderverse. You know what I mean? Like they're kind of out of the total kind of creative template that he established. I'd say like, you know, Aquaman on is kind of outside of that.
I mean,
but why don't we do both? Answer for the actual like Snyderverse. So let's say Man of Steel, BVS, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Justice League. And then you could, if you have a different answer for the entirety of the DCEU, you could throw that out as well.
I mean, partly I want to go like Superman, like
villain, best villain.
Well, not Superman himself, but
like that movie.
Yeah.
So Zod.
Yeah, Zod.
Zod would be my answer.
I think
Zod's the best one.
Yeah.
Certainly of the Snyder movies.
Yeah, I think that it's got the best villain. Like I think Zod is really, really good. My secondary would probably be Shazam. Like it would have to be
right.
Wait,
Dr. Savannah?
Dr. Savannah?
Really? That high up?
Yeah.
Interesting. Because I kind of think they made Dr. Savannah a nothing character.
I think
because they took away the sort of like mad scientist shit that's fun about Dr. Savannah in the comics.
Maybe it's just that actor and how it was portrayed.
Mark Strong is a great actor.
Yeah.
And can be very captivating, even if like technically nothing is happening.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think then directly underneath that, number 3 would be then Aquaman. It would be
Ocean Master.
Sure. Or Black Manta.
I mean, Manta's great in that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Of let's call it the Snyderverse proper. Yeah. The stuff that actually has his real kind of touch and influence on it. It's got to be Zod for me. Michael Shannon's Zod is like a scene-chewing, like Shakespearean villain. And I really, really love it. And Michael Shannon brings a lot of pathos to that character. You know, so much of that movie is about like how Krypton is this sort of like stale, engineered society. And then, you know, he has that, let's, you know, set aside the controversy of the leveling of Metropolis in that movie, but he has that speech where he says like, everything I do, no matter how cruel, is to serve my people. Like, he's almost like a computer being like, that's what I'm programmed for.
Yeah.
But it's just, but like genetically, right? It's the eugenics of Krypton. And he's like, you've taken all of that from me. And so then he's kind of snaps and and he delivers that so well. And I do love a character that can be theatrical in how big they are, like he has the like, I will find him, which is like a crazy line reading, but really works. It's the thing we like about Nicolas Cage, right? And
Michael Shannon's incredible. Yeah,
he's got that like, where did you train? On a farm?
Yeah.
The indignance, that like elitism, all of those things that is bad about Krypton. I think he does a great job embodying that. The movie itself has this weird architecture of like, what is the actual moral of this movie?
Yeah.
But Zod isn't the problem in that movie at all.
No. He's great.
So he's got to be the number one for me. Overall, both Ocean Master and Black Manta. I mean, obviously, I'm an Aquaman guy, so I've got a little bit of bias that way. But they're both excellent.
Where are you at with
villains?
Where are you at with Steppenwolf, Darkseid?
I mean, Steppenwolf is like magnitudes better in the Snyder cut of Justice League, because he actually has any sort of motivation at all. I like the idea of him. The person who's leading the army is himself quite underfoot. Of Darkseid. And all the brief things we saw of Darkseid, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? But I guess I'd say Zod number one. And then sort of outside Snyder, it would be like Ocean Master / Black Manta. And then we're splitting hairs a little bit here, but like Peacemaker / Starro in the Suicide Squad.
Sure.
Now that's the greater DCEU. That's like out of the Snyderverse, but I enjoy those as well.
Totally.
But yeah, it's Zod all the way when it comes to the Snyder stuff.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
All right, next question comes from Braden Ketty, who asks, of the scrapped Snyderverse ideas between Man of Steel and the Snyder cut of Justice League, what was the one you wished most had been put on screen?
There were a few things that came out about like initial ideas of how that world would take shape, and a lot of them didn't happen, even within the so-called Snyderverse. One thing I remember hearing about, and who knows how true this is, was that in Man of Steel, when Superman's going through the Kryptonian scout ship that they find in the ice, he sees these pods with like these dead Kryptonian skeletons in them. One pod is open, and some people were like, oh, like Supergirl? But the other theory was that ship had been there for like whatever it was, like 20,000 years or something.
Yeah.
And so I believe one of the initial premises was that whoever that Kryptonian was would have lived on Earth, had children, and through the ages for 20,000 years, some of that Kryptonian genetics would be passed down, and that any character in DC with like an extra power would have some connection to that.
Oh,
like that would have been like that. But where does it come from?
Yeah,
so
that's
Amazons, Atlanteans. Yeah, it would have been like that sort of thing. And I get the impulse of that, but I'm glad it didn't happen.
Me too. Because I'm like, there's so many powers. The idea that it would like expand.
And also that is limiting. Because now you're putting too much thought. You're being like, but where would the powers have come from? If you're putting that level of thought in, then your other thought has to be the only powers we can get are Kryptonian ones.
Exactly.
So it kind of doesn't work as a premise. We kind of just need to be in a world where like, there's magic, but we forgot about it. Or the metagene popped up. Why? I don't know. Like it just has to happen, and I think that's fine. What was the scrapped idea that I wish would have happened? I got a hot take here. There was, again, I'm not 100% sure how real this was, but there was talk that for a bit in Batman v Superman that Metallo may have been a character.
Really?
And a villain in there, kind of motivated against them. Maybe like even in like the sort of doomsday position that like maybe Lex kind of put him together to send him after them if Batman wouldn't kill him. You know what I mean? Like the what ended up being doomsday. I'm just going to type in Snyderverse Metallo because I remember seeing this like concept art floated around. I don't know if it was someone doing a fan thing or if it was actual concept art. It looks so like 90s and stupid, but I would have loved to see them try to do it on screen.
Like, I dare you.
I dare you to do this, Metallo. And this is the concept.
Oh, wow. Jesus.
It's almost like he has to like plug himself into like existing machinery. Like he's got a giant jet engine and he's got like crane hands and a big gun and like all the proportions are wrong. And it's almost like part of being Metallo is that it's just like, what did we have? And he kind of like connects it and takes over things and attaches them to himself. So this real kind of like makeshift, insane looking, but like there's a part of me that's like, that's more comic booky than almost anything in the Snyder movies. I sort of wish it was in there.
It's very like heavy metal, like that's
I don't know, that's a thing where it's like maybe the movie would have felt a little bit more would have felt a little less tied to like but grounded. That's probably why they didn't do this, but I might say that Metallo one for me.
I love it. Yeah.
Is there anything you can think of or remember hearing about that you kind of wish it?
Not really. I mean, there was always all that Flash stuff because people were like wondering what with the whole like zooming in and Batman v Superman.
Right. I mean that is almost a different thing because that's just that the sequels didn't happen. Right. But yeah, you're right. There's supposed to be more to that. There was also a thing where in Suicide Squad, instead of those like eyes of the adversary, like random putty soldiers that they fight, that Enchantress would have been like summoning parademons. That movie would have been more tied to the coming of Steppenwolf.
Oh, okay.
And for whatever reason, that got scrapped. But that was, I believe, also almost a thing.
That's rad.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next question. Comes from Kyle Sovi, who asks, what is your favorite scene from the Snyderverse? Mine is probably the Batman warehouse fight scene. Yeah, even though at least 7 men died in that fight.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
I mean, that warehouse fight.
It's so fucking good.
Really?
It's one of the first thing that I've seen that like is like, oh, this is like what you imagine why Batman would be so like deadly.
It's maybe the only scene of Batman fighting in live action that feels like how animation and video games do it.
Exactly.
It's pretty intense and really well choreographed. Yeah, I mean that warehouse scene is really tough.
It's
to top.
To beat, yeah.
My favorite scene in the Snyderverse. Here I'm gonna throw out some love in the Snyder cut here. I'm a sucker for the melodrama a little bit, so it's indulgent. But I really like Barry's intro in the Snyder cut.
Sure,
the scene where Iris's car crashes and he goes into slow mo, and just that Nick Cave song is playing, and he's like I like how like delicately he has to move her because he's moving so fast. If he grabbed her, she'd like fly apart or whatever. Like I like the delicate nature of that. I think like it looks great seeing things like not totally frozen, but just very slow movement. I think it's a very like tender and interesting and very dynamic scene that doesn't play the way most superhero slow-mo plays. Even when you look at like Quicksilver, where everything slows down and he's moving normal, that's played for fun. There's something kind of like spiritual playing about, and I think that was part of their idea with the Speed Force too. But I really like that scene. I think that's really something. And I like Superman learning how to fly in Man of Steel. And a big part of that is Hans Zimmer's score.
Sure.
I'm a sucker for music, and that like that's what I'm like, he's doing it, like, because it starts with just him jumping, and he tries to fly, and then he like fucks up and he crashes through a mountain. But then when he does it, and you get that like bum 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 bum, like I love that Superman score too is really, really cool to me. So that's up there.
I mean, I'll admit I do really love the Aquaman in Justice League, like Snyder, like
right.
I do love the like Batman showing up. Like I think that really feels like a comic book thing where it's like he's looking for this thing, goes to this like small Nordic seaside town, and it's like he's looking like, and it's like we find like he comes on the tide, the King's Tide. Like it feels like there's a lot of pathos and badass.
Well, and that's such a Snyder thing too. Is he's like, these are gods. I mean, he said it just outright. He's like, they're the Olympians. This is the mythology. They're gods. So the treatment of Aquaman is like, this like savior that comes from the sea, and 4 minutes of Icelandic singing.
I mean, that part I don't like.
I love it.
I really wish that the
but again, there's a part of me that kind of vibes with just like the slow Nick Cave while he's
sure.
I don't know.
I love it.
I don't hate it. It does, although I will say that one feels like he was like, I would have used Icky Thump, but I don't want to.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I really love the Wonder Woman like intro fight scene at the like robbery.
I mean, I know it's not a Snyder directed movie, but it's absolutely Snyderverse. It's crazy that we're not talking about No Man's Land.
Yeah.
No Man's Land and Wonder Woman is like one of the best scenes in the DCEU at all.
Yeah.
And so that deserves to be in there. You know, that's Patty Jenkins, directing that one. But that's still very much under the umbrella of like the sort of creative concept and
it's the verse
and the
right?
continuity and the history that Snyder was kind of the architect of. Pretty relatively heavy involvement. I would argue there. Not in crafting that scene.
No,
but in
creating the universe, though.
But the idea of like this really lives in a thing where Snyder is like, that's in my world. You know what I mean?
I think so.
No Man's Land has to be
fucking good. Yeah. All right, let's leave Facebook and head on over to Twitter.
Twitter.
First question comes from Batman Out of Hell, who asks, "Why is there so little color in these films?"
Oh boy,
you're not wrong. It is the Snyder palette thing. I mean, that's not just these movies. That's just him in general.
It's him in general. I do think that there is a slight thing of like, and this equals gravitas. I don't think some of the
high contrast, low saturation is always fucking.
I don't think some of the like, let's take this, let's treat this as like our legendarium, the mythology of our time. I don't think that's necessarily a bad place to come from, but I do think you see someone who like doesn't have a take other than that in how desaturated those movies are, where it's like, but if we put the color back in, people won't take it seriously anymore. And I think that's a real like lack of trust in your audience.
Yeah.
And also a deep insecurity about being perceived to copy Marvel. Marvel didn't invent color. Color has been in film for quite a long time. Mm-hmm. But also B, like, even if you did copy Marvel, it's what people like. Mm-hmm. It's there are worse things. But so I think there's a lot of insecurity behind the sort of the color grading of these movies. And I also think that's Snyder has a very stylized way of shooting. As far as I know, Snyder doesn't tend to get multiple coverage shots at once. I think he only shoots single camera.
Oh, really?
So you're doing multiple, like I don't think he'll put two cameras up and get both angles of a shot. Yeah. He sets a shot from one side and then he gets the coverage, and I think part of his thing is he also likes to kind of like separate your backgrounds from your your focus.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a green screen thing, and I think sometimes it's about the color grading in that. I think that for him makes a thing feel like it's like fiction come to life as opposed to like watching a movie.
Sure.
I don't know that it always works. I think there are some times it does work. I think a desaturated fight against Doomsday really works because then you get the bright orange of that energy Doomsday gives off. You get the glowing green of the kryptonite, and that's kind of all you're looking at.
Yeah.
You know, and everything else is ash, you know, like it is. That moment works, but should the entire movie be like that? I don't think so.
Yeah.
And Justice League is so desaturated, like almost to a level of parody, I would say. And I don't know how much of that was like cranked up when it was like, fine, finish your movie. Like if they just if his movie just came out, would it be as desaturated as the Zack Snyder's Justice League we got? And my thought is probably not. It would be compared to other movies, but compared to what we got, I feel like that was well, if we're going to do it, we're doing it my way. Yeah.
All right, next question comes from our favorite religious representative.
Christian.
That's right, who asks, what would his Green Lantern have been like? I.e. casting, whether it be John, Hal, Kyle, costume style, personality, etc.
I think what we know of what was going to happen with Green Lantern is that it would have been John, I think, is the idea. I think they had cast it. And he would have shown up in place of Martian Manhunter in that final scene, where like Bruce wakes up.
Sure, yeah.
Let's see. Who would it have been? Portrayed by Wayne T. Carr, an actor I'm not super familiar with.
No.
But they had shot some scenes. So it would have been Jon Stewart. He would have shown up. It would have been in place of that Martian Manhunter thing, because Martian Manhunter was never truly part of it. Think about when he shows up in that movie. It's that scene where someone's talking to Bruce, and none of the dialogue on Bruce's end really references anything of Martian Manhunter. Could very easily sub in Green Lantern there. And the only other Martian Manhunter scene is tagged on at the end of the Martha and Lois scene, which would have just cut. You wouldn't have seen her leave, but they tagged that on and had her transform just to give one more piece of Martian Manhunter before he showed up at the end, I think. So Lantern would have shown up, probably would have been, like, hey, you guys know, like, Darkseid's out there and he's coming for you. It probably would have been some sort of shit like that. I don't know that I fully understand why Green Lantern couldn't have been in the first one, where it's like Steppenwolf is invading and he's the Green Lantern. Like what I mean, like story wise, you just go like, I got a call. They go, who are you? He goes, I protect this sector. You don't.
281.
Let's take for granted that like most people didn't get their own movies to set up. Justice League. I don't think it's that much crazier to also throw him in, even like as a late-ish edition. I'm not sure why. It would have done some work to alleviating the color saturation problem.
Totally.
Because Batman's wearing black. Wonder Woman has like a very muted red and blue going on. Flash is wearing red, but again, toned it down. Aquaman's not wearing his bright orange. Having someone who literally glows green would have really helped a little bit, I think. But, whatever.
So do we know what the costume personality would be like at all, or?
I mean, not beyond that it's Jon Stewart, so I imagine it would be largely the Jon Stewart-ish kind of design of the Green Lantern uniform. John's a military man, relatively, direct, straightforward, down to business. That makes sense, not necessarily here for the comedy.
Feels like it would be a good straight man, though, to like that what Batman had to sort of take on.
I mean, but Batman would have been it anyway.
Yeah.
It would just be one more serious person in the mix, but it would have been neat to see what's the escalation of the fight or the final fight if you have someone with Green Lantern's power in the corner, right? Like, is part of the thing, like, him also trying to split the things up, or is he making a connection with Victor and the mother box, or is he trying to hold the boom tube closed, the one that opens, and we see Darkseid on the other side, and Darkseid's going to come, like, where does he fit? That I would be curious about if he was in that first movie, and otherwise, yeah, I don't know. It feels kind of like mean to throw Green Lantern Yal Gur in that crazy like ancient times flashback and then not have a green
I don't like that.
You have Wonder Woman tell the history of like the thing or whatever, but you could have had Green Lantern be like, and that ring now is mine, after thousands of years or whatever. I'm the Green Lantern here now. I'm ready to face Darkseid. We've been ready for him to try again for a while or whatever. Yeah.
All right. With that, let's go to the next. Next question.
Okay.
Next question comes from.
Let's do it.
It's coming from.
From whom?
It's a resident.
I'm ready. Who?
It's Raging G. I like to break in glass. Raging G. I love my Billy Mouth Bass.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah.
A very slow Raging G. That's like the sad reprise. Raging G.
Feels like a Snyder version. Yeah.
Well, I was even thinking of like the sad, like, America, fuck yeah.
Gonna save the motherfucking yeah. I'm so tired. We ate so much. Raging G asks, do you think that they should remove everything Snyder related in the future if they make movies, from concepts or to even actors? Or should they keep elements but make it clear it's a different continuity or multiverse? And in brackets, please keep Cavill.
My answer is neither.
Yeah.
There's a middle ground here that's the easiest solution. That seems to be the solution that nobody, fans, haters, execs, thinks is the viable option, but it's the easiest option, and it's do it the way comics does it, where it's
pretend like it didn't happen.
Keep the stuff that's working, jettison the stuff that isn't, or change it or recast it, and you actually don't have to specify if it's the same continuity or not. It is until it's not.
Yeah.
Or it's not until it is. And you just do it.
Yeah.
And people will go with it. I think, not unreasonably, we're wary of how confusing some of this stuff can be for the general audience. And I think Marvel has set the expectation that all of these things are crystal clear and there's an answer for every question you've got. And if it's not in the movie, it's in an interview or whatever. And I think that kind of poisons the experience of just how do you encounter serialized storytelling. And the way that we do it in comics all the time is that stuff happens, stories come out, and sometimes they're great and sometimes they're shit. And sometimes we love them. And sometimes the person that makes it is deeply problematic, but it's just there. And maybe you ignore it for a bit. Maybe that character comes back, or maybe that story comes back, and sometimes that happens and it's canon. Sometimes that happens and it's not canon, and you just roll with it and you figure it out as it comes. And just because one thing happened also doesn't mean that the other thing can't happen later.
Totally.
It's fluid. And to me, that's the way forward. And that's what they've been doing, and why I wouldn't want them to drastically change course. Aquaman, Shazam, Wonder Woman 1984, Birds of Prey, The Suicide Squad and Peacemaker are all concretely in the DCEU. They are canon to what Snyder set up.
Totally.
We haven't seen Cavill in a while. I would love to have him back. But even if they recast him, that to me, I don't just go like, oh, it's multiverse now.
No.
They just recast him.
Yeah.
I might have my feelings about that, but that doesn't I hate the idea that we're trained to be like, well, different actor. I guess this is a multiverse now. It's that's not really what that means. There's a suspension of disbelief that I think has atrophied because of the way Marvel presents stories. 100%. So you keep that. Affleck shows up in Aquaman 2. Does that mean it's like the Snyderverse is on? No. Does it mean that it's done? No. He's just there.
Yeah.
He was Batman before. He's Batman here. Just deal with it. If they make a Batman movie and Affleck's like, I'm too old, and they just get another beefy guy, but he's clearly like meant to be the same one, you go, all right,
yes,
just do it. Like, or if we never see Batman or Superman for another 4 years or whatever in movies, yeah, that sucks if you like those characters and they're major parts of DC. But does that mean that the DCU is failing, or does it mean that it's not continuity or whatever?
Look at the Batman movies that we had before. Like, look at the Schumacher Batmans. Like,
yeah,
like this is not the first time we've just switched out characters and and it's still the same continuity.
I think we have been trained to overthink it, and I think the easiest thing is we don't have to like decanonize the stuff from the Snyder movies. The destruction of Metropolis, the first Suicide Squad movie. They don't have to officially not exist. You can just largely ignore them.
Or take what you want from them.
Or maybe you don't ignore them and something comes back later and you go, do you know what, that, like, in the case of the Suicide Squad, you bring back Boomer and Flag and they have like...
And you make them better.
And they become like the emotional heartbreak of that movie.
True.
And it only works because they were out in the first one.
Yeah, and even I don't know about Boomerang, but Flag, yeah.
And even if the first one's a piece of shit, the second one sets up... When Boomerang's death sets up, anyone can die.
Yes.
Because Boomerang's supposed to be a core member.
Yeah. And
also, like, even in that, his, 6 minutes on screen, you're like, fuck, that was Boomerang.
You loved
Worth
him,
it. But... So, yeah, the short answer is you don't have to jettison the Snyder stuff to keep moving forward. You also don't have to keep the Snyder stuff, but be like, but it's actually, this universe, we're like, that's overthinking it. Just keep making movies.
Totally.
Use what you can use. Bring stuff back if you want to. Ignore it if you want to. And that's fine.
100%. All right, let's leave Twitter and head on over to Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram. Take some questions and answer them. Wow.
Hey, man.
Wow, you're fading.
I am fading.
Kind of faded, but I feel all right. Think about eating some food tonight.
Whoa. Wow. Because I got to fade. Because I guess it would be nice if I could eat some food now.
I know not every food now has got a body like meat.
All right. Jesus Christ. How dare you? They don't even know.
Oh God, you guys are gonna learn something great about
you guys are gonna have
family on Friday.
Nope. All right. First question comes from Dem Jinkies, who asks, Snyder has stated that the dead Robin is Dick. Assuming the death of the family happened similar to the comics, but with him instead of Jason, how would you reintroduce him into the universe in the solo Nightwing movie that was supposed to happen? How he was brought back to life, his new identity as Nightwing, his relationship to Bruce, and discovering the Joker is still alive, etc.
Yeah, this is a weird one where you see the Robin costume in Batman v Superman, right? It says like, ha ha ha, joke's on you. You know Robin's dead.
Yeah.
You know this Bruce is like turned kind of a very dark page because of all of that.
Yeah.
And then in like an interview or something, Snyder was like, oh yeah, it's Dick Grayson.
I guess if he just didn't know, maybe
well, but that feels like that's deliberate. We all know, especially if if you're making a movie for DC, someone would be like, sir, like,
yeah,
we know it's Jason Todd that died. So to make that change is deliberate. And is it just
to be like a dick about it? Like,
to me, it feels like Snyder being like, I feel like Snyder would
I
be
didn't
like,
get my Nightwing movie. Like,
no, because this was before anything even got announced, let alone didn't get developed.
Sure, yeah.
But I think it feels like Dick Grayson is a character he couldn't understand. Because I think Snyder...
so he just wanted
Snyder
to kill him?
believes in kind of the worst of us.
Yes.
That's why Superman is so much more doubting. It's why Batman falls so hard.
Yeah.
You know, it's why Wonder Woman shuts herself off from humanity for 100 years.
Yeah.
Etc. It's like you look at the pattern.
Yeah.
And Snyder is not hopeful. And that is the eminent quality of Dick Grayson.
It's also why I think he
you
struggled with Superman.
And so you can't have a Dick Grayson out there in that world because that Dick would have pulled Bruce out of it.
Yeah.
So I think that change to making Dick the one who died, in a way, fits with the world, kind of makes sense. But I also think it's like the lazy way out of being like, oh, but how do I deal with a world where there's like a bright shining beacon of hope?
Sure.
Heaven forbid. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's a level of incompetency on the part of Snyder in terms of like understanding the allure of that. Even like I think he maybe has the perception that it's childish or antiquated or unrealistic, that realism is more equal to those dark things. And I would imagine that was part of it. How would I bring Dick back? I mean, he probably just would have done it a similar, you know, like a Lazarus Pit thing, or maybe it's, you know, when you saved the day and destroyed the mother boxes, the energy, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like it would be some bullshit like that. But my thoughts are that it's not Jason Todd because killing Dick is the only way for his world to keep happening.
I mean, I do like that.
That's my thought. Yeah.
Because
otherwise it just seems so arbitrary. You know what I mean? Or it's like, but why? Just make it Jason. Like a Robin still died. It's not good. You know, Titans the show is a good example of, do you want a Bruce that'll go over the edge?
Yeah.
But also have a world where it follows the right order? Because like that Bruce kills Joker. Mm-hmm. That's a Snyder move. He'd fucking love that. But you still have Dick in that world.
Totally.
Like Titans actually, I think, like, is the proof that it's more that Snyder just can't do it.
Yeah.
He's incapable than it being like a necessary story move.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Multi Sanchez, who asks, which is the most powerful force in the Snyderverse? The Speed Force, the Anti-Life Equation, or the name Martha?
I've got a hot take.
Okay.
I don't think that the idea of the Martha scene is that stupid. I think the execution is poor.
Why did you say that name?
Because here's the thing. That entire scene hinges on the idea that as Batman is like stepping on Superman's neck and going to stab him, Superman says, not save my mom, or they've got my mom, or they have her. He just says, save Martha. Never set up that that's his mom. Doesn't say Martha Kent. Doesn't give Batman like enough to do anything about it, but just has to say save Martha. And I think it's that clunky like lead in that makes the whole thing look stupid.
Wait, what's your dad's name?
I love that Teen Titans Go joke. It's very, very funny. Wait, what's your father's name? Jonathan? Mine's Thomas. But you know what I mean? Like I think it's such like a bad execution of that scene.
Yeah.
Because he has to go like, save Martha.
Yeah.
And then we go like, Martha, so why did you say that name? And it's just bad dialogue. If it was like, you know, save her, save my mom, like you could still make the Martha connection or whatever. You'd be like, save my mom. And Bruce kind of has like he has a mom. And then you get some of the flashback things, and maybe even Bruce then goes like Martha, and maybe Superman goes like, why did you say that name?
Yeah.
You know, it's like a different energy. And then it's still dumb in the way that it's like, oh, our moms are named Martha, we should be friends. But it's not dumb that something like that with like an emotional like trauma for Bruce would snap him out of it. Like I actually buy into that as a setup, but I think it's badly done.
Yeah.
That's my take on that scene. I would argue that the force of Martha is extremely powerful in the in the DCEU.
Sure, more powerful than Speed Force.
Speed Force, obviously, I really like that scene of turning back time in the Snyder cut.
Yeah,
where they aren't fast enough, they don't stop the mother boxes, and the Earth explodes and everybody's shredded apart. And Barry goes in the Speed Force and turns back time and saves the day. That's a fucking cool scene.
Yeah,
interesting depiction of the Speed Force, I would say. And then as for the anti-life equation, we talk about it a bit in the Snyder Cut. We don't really see it in action, but I think one of the scrapped things for the sequels would be that Lex would have found it or something, and that the Riddler would have been put to the task of like deciphering it.
Oh.
The Riddler would figure out the anti-life equation and immediately blow his brains out.
Really?
And even though that's the most edgelord thing in the world, I do like the idea that feels like it's authentic to the idea that like this is a mathematical proof of that there is no free will.
Yeah.
And what would that do to you? Especially if you're a person like the eminent logician or whatever.
Sure,
like the Riddler. So I like the idea of like, what if you encountered mathematical proof that existence is meaningless?
Yeah.
What would that mean to you? And you were smart enough to really comprehend what that means. And I like that, even though it is extremely edgelordy.
Sure.
There's something kind of interesting about that. It certainly sets up the threat of this very esoteric concept of like Darkseid's after math. Darkseid needs math.
Yeah.
Like Loki needed the cube.
Yes.
Thanos needed stones. Darkseid needs math.
Yeah.
That's it's a slightly headier concept. Thank you, Kirby.
Yeah.
So having something like that helps give it some weight. Like, this thing is not to be fucked with. It's the serious version of the Monty Python's like funniest joke ever told, where like everyone like dies laughing when they hear the joke.
Yeah.
People had to write the joke in parts so they wouldn't see the whole thing. Like, that's what I think of when I think of that.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, let's leave Instagram and head on over to Reddit,
where everyone's nice and no one's ever mean.
First question comes from MadSeb77, who asks, would you have revealed the Martian Manhunter as the Seventh Leaguer in movie 1, or introduced instead the Green Lanterns, Hal or John, since we see them in the flashback? Could it have elevated the team?
So we talked about this a little bit. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it's kind of a weird move to have like a Martian Manhunter kind of like stinger on that movie and no sign of a Green Lantern? What would your, let's imagine they don't show up like in the movie. We're not changing the movie particularly, but just maybe who shows up at the end.
If I think of like the key members of the Justice League, I might say Martian Manhunter before Green Lantern.
Interesting.
Like I am definitely like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, and then I'm like Martian Manhunter, I think is
right
where I go.
Interesting.
I also like the idea that it's like, yeah, you guys have all been fucking dealing with this shit the last like 5 years or something, but like he's like, I've been here since like the 60s. Like,
oh, the Manhunter.
Yeah. So I liked the Manhunter thing because it's also like, oh, this is all at a whole other level. Like,
right. I think the problem is that it's so kind of throwaway.
Sure. Yeah, I think like
because like there are questions. It's like, if you've been Henry Lennox's character this whole time, you were the guy that like wanted to put Superman in prison, and you didn't want to help when Zod invaded, and you blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You can write that off. Like, there's a way to do it, but you need some version of like, yeah, that was bad, but I had to keep up appearances because my primary concern is keeping anti-life hidden.
Yeah,
I know where it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you need something there.
Yes, I agree.
I think
my
thing.
Bringing in the Green Lantern, though, is just like bringing in a Green Lantern is like opening this up to a whole other place that would be great for a movie when we're ready to go to space. But like, if the choice is one or the other, I'm gonna go Martian Manhunter.
See, but to me, that feels like Green Lantern makes a good stinger that way.
Yes.
Because they've saved the day, and then Green Lantern shows up, and, we came as soon as we could, but it looks like you got it handled, want you to know we're out there. And when they come back, and they will come back,
sure.
You call me, I'm with you or whatever. And you go like, fuck Green Lantern. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the second movie, when they have to make sure no one finds the anti-life equation, then you get the like, Martian Manhunter is like, I know it's here. I've been trying to keep it safe.
Yeah,
Riddler is trying to, you bring him in that context instead of the throwaway stinger.
Yeah.
I think maybe I'm leaning like, I love Martian Manhunter, but I think I'm leaning Green Lantern would be a better kind of epilogue.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Interesting.
Yeah, you convinced me.
I'm pretty persuasive.
All right. Next question comes from Draco Folly, who asks, do you think a shared movie universe needs a consistent tone and visual style, or is it my pet theory, the general audience only cares that the same actors play the same roles?
I mean, the audience definitely goes in for that. Even before the Marvel universe, when we started seeing like the early days of, like those cracked videos or like CinemaSins or something, you'd get these people who'd be like, and here's my movie theory. And it'd be like, they recast this role. What if he's not the same one? That's where you'd get that like James Bond is a code name theory.
Yeah.
James Bond was never meant to have like a real continuity to it, but they go like, he's been around since the 60s. It's like, well, he hasn't. The movies have. You know what I mean? The movies are like almost out of time. And so that thing existed before Marvel. You can't blame Marvel for that. There was already that sort of thing, but it used to just be kind of like, we all know this is bullshit, but isn't it a funny thought exercise? And then the Marvel thing came in and said, no, you're right. And the way they trained us to watch movies is that those things that you would normally write off are now deliberate decisions. And partly that has to do with casting and that, although, ignore the phase one of Marvel for that. Part of that's about that. I don't think, to answer the actual question, I personally don't think that a cinematic universe needs a consistent tone and style. Obviously, Marvel largely does, with very few deviations. The most significant stylistic deviations in Marvel are the Taika Waititi Thor and
even still,
and the Raimi Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And I would maybe, big stretch, say the Russo brothers Winter Soldier.
Sure. And that one feels the most.
Truly, all of those movies are mostly the same kind of tone. There's little subtle differences, but they're not particularly noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's necessary, though. It's just one way of doing it. I think it makes total sense to me that Aquaman looks and feels different from the Suicide Squad, which looks and feels different from Batman v Superman, which looks of even the Wonder Woman movies, the first one to the second one, don't have a consistent visual style. And I think that works. They're both period pieces. One is World War I, and so it is made to fit in that world, and the other is 1984, and it's made to fit there.
I think there's a similar visual styling,
there's a similar like
filmmaking,
but that's not the same to me. Like 1984 is like a movie with more kind of humor and stuff to it than the first Wonder Woman.
Sure, it feels like it's progressed, but I think like aesthetically, it feels like it's going for the same sort of like visual processing.
I guess, yeah, I guess. Shazam, is a different beast though than those other ones. It's more kind of like family oriented, like for an audience,
Yeah, he's also not getting brought into the like Avengers or anything.
Well, he wouldn't. That's Marvel.
We're talking about Shazam and Wonder Woman.
Yeah. And the Avengers.
Oh, sorry, Justice League. Yeah.
You piece of shit.
I got meat brain.
Jesus. Yeah, I mean, he's not, but there's the headless, like, Superman cameo. Like, Shazam is meant to be there.
Yeah.
he's part of it. But that movie has a totally different tone than Man of Steel, but they live in the same spot. And I think that totally works. I do think you're right that audiences are kind of trained to see difference as meaning something more significant. And I think that's bullshit. And if DC wants to continue to have some success on the movie front, because I do think that there has been quite a lot of progress that way. It's important to have the varied styles, and that actually includes Snyder. That's not like a middle finger to him. I think it means that, like, this is the point they bring up on Blank Check. It was like oppressive to think that every DC movie had to feel like Snyder's. That kind of bleak aesthetic and outlook and that. And like, even if you like that, that's a lot every movie forever. But now that it's just like one of like 6 different options for types of movie, it's actually a lot easier to enjoy what Snyder was bringing to the table because you're not stuck in it forever.
Totally.
So it's a much healthier kind of like ecosystem for a cinematic universe, I think.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from StarRec92, who asks, why do you think there is no middle ground when it comes to this franchise? It seems people either adore it or absolutely despise it.
I mean, as someone who tends to like it, I'm a little close to this. What's your perspective on this? Why is there no middle ground? I mean, that's also hyperbole.
Yes.
There are people that are in the middle ground, but
I think I would say I'm in the middle.
Right.
Honestly. I find that the things it's a one color palette to paint for a lot of different things.
Right.
And I think that I don't particularly love the way that they do Superman,
right.
Because the things that I like about Superman are this very hopeful sort of viewpoint, and that is not what Snyder does.
Right.
It might be cool and comic booky, but that's not necessarily the thing that I go to Superman for.
Right.
I think that at the end of the day, it just comes down to when it happened, it felt like oppressive. It felt like, oh, this is the only version that we get. So it made you go, if you don't like that, then you have to hate it because it's like, this is what you're getting.
Right.
And so it's like, you're finally getting these like upscaled like DC properties outside of Batman, and they are all this one version.
Right. Yes. And that's pretty disheartening.
And they were painting like a long stretch. Like, this is our Marvel like universe. Like, these are our phases. This is what we're doing. And it's all going to look like this. And that's pretty aggressive when it's like a pretty, like, it's a depressing, dark, like very nihilistic version of these things that overall, like, DC has only been that for like 30 years, maybe, of like 100-year like existence. Like, DC, like, it hit the 80s and 90s and got pretty dark for sure. Yeah, we all did.
But that's just it. Everyone did.
Yeah. And I think that it's such like, I think when you look at a pop culture lens and think about Batman, you're probably you're thinking about like Michael Keaton, you're probably thinking about like the West sort of Batman, and then you're thinking about the comic books that were pretty dark, and you're probably not thinking about the like wide swath of like positive, fun Batman comics. You're probably thinking about the big tentpole things that were pretty fucking dark from the 90s. Like,
sure, yeah.
And I think that like you're getting this like one version of it, and it's like, as a comic book fan, you're just like, but that's not what it all is. Like, that's not why I come into this, and I think it's upsetting because it's just this the thing about Marvel is at least it's all fun, and it's like, who can't get down with fun, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think part of it too was that, even if you take for granted like Snyder's doing something different, he wants to show another side of it or whatever. This is a Superman that needs to, like, he's got a lot of doubt, but he'll earn his place. He'll become the Superman you can buy into that idea maybe after one movie, and you go like, I hope now he is our Superman.
Yeah.
But after, like, it takes 3 movies.
Yeah.
It's like the end of Justice League, and you go, I think now maybe that he's died and come back. He's like, I have a second chance. I'm not going to blow it. This time I'll be happy. Like, that's hard to fuck with, like, I think there's only so much tether that people will give to try something that's maybe a little deconstructive like that.
Totally, yeah.
And if you abuse that, like it takes 3 movies to even get a hint of that Superman. 3 movies for him to rip the shirt open.
Yeah.
That's crazy talk.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it.
Yeah. I think that's my perspective, at least.
I think you're right. I mean, it'd be silly not to throw that Snyder fans are fucking horrible.
Yeah.
Now, here's the important distinction here. I like the Snyder movies. Flaws and all. That doesn't mean I don't think they have flaws.
Sure.
I just like them. I can't fucking help it. I like Batman v Superman. Yeah. It does something for me. Sue me. But I'm not a fan of Snyder.
No.
I like what he did in that movie, and I like that movie. And I think the problem is that the people that have just decided that they're just like whole hog in on Snyder, they've so poisoned it that now you feel insane to like those movies. And that's the other thing too, is it's hard to come out. I almost don't sometimes want to say like, hey, I like that movie, because I don't want someone to immediately think I'm one of those douchebags.
Yeah.
Like harassing and being bigots and
Totally.
being like, boycott every movie that isn't exactly the movie I want because I'm a little piss baby, like.
Yeah.
So I don't online. I want to be more like, do you know what? Batman v Superman is kind of like that's kind of my jam.
Yeah.
But I don't want people who don't know me to be like, ugh, one of these.
Totally.
And so I think that's also led to that, is that the so-called middle ground probably don't say much. They're there, but they're super not vocal because you don't want to take the heat from the Snyder fans that are like, how could this movie have any faults?
Yeah.
And you don't want to take the heat from other people that were like, how could you like a movie this aggressively, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I think, so it does come across as though there is no middle.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Ghost with a Pen, who asks, are these films based around / references to comic storylines? I mean, some
very
and bits
loosely.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie where you see it the most is Batman v Superman.
Really?
And the stuff you see in there is very obviously the influence of the Dark Knight Returns, of the Frank Miller comic. The Batman Superman fight there is.
Oh, really?
Beats of it are fresh out of that thing. The guns in the dumpsters, leading him into a trap, all this kind of shit. The armored suit.
Really? Wow.
All of that is like straight out of fucking Dark Knight Returns. Even the idea of he's an old Batman. And you know, all of that shit is from there. And you even get little visual bits, during the Doomsday fight, Batman kind of like does the swing around a building or whatever, and it looks like that iconic kind of pose from the cover of Dark Knight Returns.
Sure, yeah.
All that stuff is in there. But the movie isn't based on Dark Knight Returns in any way. It's not about the gang thing. It's not about, the only things you're taking is like the brutality of Batman and some shit like that, and some visual cues. But it's not really based on that. In the same way that like Man of Steel is not based on Superman Birthright, but it's influenced by it, the tone of it. Some of the stuff about, Pa Kent being like, well, I don't know, maybe you should have let those kids drown. It's like all that stuff, that there are elements of that in other Superman comics. Even, I would say, Action Comics #1, Pa Kent kind of has a like, maybe you should stay hidden sort of thing. It's not quite as grim as let the kids drown sort of, but there's an element of that, and tonally, I do think some of the Byrne Superman stuff is in there too. But again, it's not like a story. They're not doing an adaptation, even a loose adaptation of a story, not the way, Marvel would do Civil War. And that's a very loose Civil War, right, that they do in the MCU. But it's still much closer to its source material than anything in DC. But that's a thing I kind of like about DC generally. It's like, just tell me a story. It's a thing I like about those old Batman movies. Is like they weren't going like, oh, I found this Penguin story from the 70s. We're doing that. They just go like, I don't know, Penguin wants the firstborn children of Gotham, and also this guy wants to build a power plant that actually like drains power from the city. I don't know. That's Batman Returns. You go, sure. Like, I kind of like that. We know I think you have to treat it more like a sitcom where it's like, even if people don't read comics and don't, quote, know the characters, you should assume that it's like these characters kind of serve functions. It's about the situations you put them into. You don't have to direct adapt a story from comics. You can, and that's fine. And some of those I would like to see.
Yeah.
But it's not the only way to do it. And I think it's fun to just have a sandbox and be like, our version of Riddler is this kind of guy. And our version of Batman is this kind of guy. What if, and then you just make up a story and you put them in and you go, and how does that play out? And I think a lot of DC is actually kind of like that. You know, there's a lot of influences of the Ostrander Suicide Squad, like original run in the Suicide Squad movie. This isn't the Snyderverse, but it's not an adaptation of anything.
Totally.
And when you look at those Snyderverse movies, I guess the closest thing to an adaptation is actually Justice League, where it's that they don't really know each other and Darkseid is invading. And that's essentially the plot points of Justice League Origin, the first arc from Justice League in the New 52. But that is a massive stretch from adaptation because it's nothing like that book, not even beats.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that Cyborg's part of the League is part of what makes you think of it. The fact that it's about the invasion of Apocalypse, all that kind of stuff. But otherwise, none of these are adaptations of a comic story. There's no version of, did you like Wonder Woman? Pick up.
Sure.
And it's that story. If you like Wonder Woman, I would read the Rucka stuff and that because I think aesthetically you're getting a lot of that vibe in there. But it's more vibes than anything.
All right, let's leave Reddit and head on over to the Doc Scored.
Oh.
Doc Scored. Now.
Play me a doc, see the Doc Scored man. Scored me a doc scored. Well, we docs and we scored, and we docs and we scored. Scored and we docs and they scored. Scored and scored and a doc scored.
Cool.
He's a real estate novelist.
Huh?
That's one of the lines in the song.
What the fuck is that?
Paul was a real estate novelist.
What does that mean?
I don't know, but he never had time for a wife.
I mean, do you know how real estate
novelizations are?
Yeah.
I got the novelization of that condo complex. It's pretty good.
Yeah, not as good as
it's got some
person.
Extended lore you don't get if you just walk through that condo.
Yeah. It's not the same feeling. First question from the Doc Scored comes from...
That condo's real name is Sheev.
Nice. Yokro asks, do you think they made a casting mistake in Ben Affleck? Supposedly, he was meant to die in Justice League Part 3. Would it have been a better choice to have gone with a younger Batman, also considering Cavill's Superman was in his late 20s, early 30s? Or did the contrast of age add more to the emotional state of the characters?
I mean, my take on this is that no, it's not a mistake. I know what they were going for, especially in the context of Batman v Superman. You need someone who's tried it the good way and it never works, or they're in the state where they believe it doesn't work. And that kind of like that anger and all that festering. You need an older Batman to fit the position of what is essentially one of the villains of that movie.
Yeah.
So that works for me. In terms of the business planning, is that the smartest thing ever? Probably not, because even if, like he dies and someone else becomes Batman, then you go like, we started our franchise and we immediately got rid of Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Which in comic book circles, we'd kind of be like, that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking of the general audience, that becomes kind of like it's weird. Maybe it's good, but it's weird.
Yeah.
I like Ben Affleck as Batman. I think he plays it so well. Both sides.
He's
of
my
it.
favorite.
He's my favorite too. He's the only one to me that does the best job of
both
Bruce Wayne and Batman.
Yeah, and believable for both.
Yeah, totally. And so
I also like a chunky Batman.
I love a thick boy. Yeah. And why do we trade Master Wayne? To get dummy thick. Yeah. I don't know that I think it was a mistake. It would also work with a young one, but not if you built it the way they did. You don't do Batman v Superman, I think, with a young Batman. That doesn't make sense. I mean, it tenuously makes sense with an old Batman.
Yeah.
Without an old Batman, it makes zero sense, I think.
I think you're right. Yeah. Next question comes from We've Only Just Danda again, who just asks, what do you think Snyder understands well about DC? What changes or adjustments work best in your opinion?
Oh, interesting. What do you think? What do you think Snyder actually gets? What do you think he's like really got his finger on the pulse on when it comes to DC?
That's an interesting question to ask. I think that he understands the magnitude of these characters being in this world.
Sure.
I think that's the thing that he gets is like, yeah, they are meant to be gods and titans, and I think that is a good vibe that I haven't really seen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fun in Marvel if like Thor shows up and then someone's like, "Can I get a selfie with you?" and they just do it.
Yeah.
I like that. I don't think it's shitty. I don't think it's it undercuts anything. No, I think that's fun. But I also think you're right that it's an extremely right take to be like, this man is a sea god and he comes once a year and we revere him.
Yeah.
Because that is also out there, you know? So I do think you're right. The thing Snyder understands is that they are mythological.
Yeah.
I think the thing he also understands is that there is a certain melodrama or an operatic nature to the existence of this world and these characters in that world. And when you get scenes like Barry's introduction or the Aquaman scene in Iceland or it's a little too Jesus-y for me, but like that montage of Superman saving people in Batman v Superman.
Sure, yeah. Take
the Jesus part out of it, but just the idea of like people are like a literal god dropped out of the sky and saved me from a flood. Like it's pretty powerful. And to live in a world like that's a world where if Superman dies, the world falls into despair. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Now, do we want to spend a ton of time doing that in a movie? Like maybe not. But I do think he understands that there is a weight to that maybe doesn't get shown enough. Yeah. Especially in Batman movies, the cops are always like, "Hey, Batman! Like,
yes.
hey, how's it going?" Like,
that's the thing I loved in the Batman that they did really well, which is like it's weird that Batman shows up.
And in that movie, even though he's very clearly a dude in a suit, it's still like oh shit, the seas part, and it's like, what the fuck's he gonna do? Like, there's a tension to that, and I think that's the thing Snyder gets.
Yeah.
How he uses it, and is it used to best effect, and like, is it overdone? Have we lost the other side? All of those are valid kind of points and criticism and questions, but I think it's undeniable that he understands like that. Like you're talking about like giant golden statues of beings,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree with that. Is there any like changes or adjustments that you think work best?
That I dug. Not like offhand, not specifically that I can think of.
Like, the comics do this and you did that. Like, I can't think of anything.
Nothing like that concrete that I can think of. But yeah, I mean, I do like how operatic it is. We're talking. It's almost you're talking about like Valkyries and, gods and, dragon kings and, swan princess. Like, the operas and ballets always go into these worlds of, like, the thing that's bigger than the rest of us. Even when it's something like the Nutcracker, something fun, that's like it feels like it's embodying another space. And I think he gets that. I just don't know that the rest of his outlook makes best use of that.
Totally.
It should be that, and then that's the thing where you, like, the power of inspiration of Superman is undeniable because he's so mythic.
Yeah.
That's more inspiring than a character like Iron Man could be. Iron Man could do all the good deeds in the world, and he can't inspire people the way Superman can. Same with Captain America. Could do all the good deeds in the world. He can't inspire people the way Superman can because Superman is, like, mythic.
Yeah.
And, and I think that's part of it.
I think a thing he didn't get, but, like, I've seen a few times. Like, I think the animated series got it. I think the Batman got pretty close to it, and I think Schumacher was about to hit it, which is the actual, like, universe, the, like, landscape, the cities.
Right.
I don't think that I never got that from Snyder.
I will. Maybe it's only in contrast to Nolan.
Because Nolan really didn't get
Snyder,
it.
Yeah, Nolan fully didn't get it. He'd be like, I don't know, Gotham's just like any other city, and you would not know that it was worse in any way.
Yeah.
Other than Batman,
Nolan's whole thing is like, what if it was real?
Batman Begins almost was more like it. Batman Begins has some, like, architectural shit to it, and then he abandons it. And you're like, fuck, no, that was the good stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, in Batman v Superman, like, Gotham is more kind of like brownstone and brick than Metropolis is, which is more like steel and glass.
Totally.
And, more run down and feels like grimier. But you're right, we don't see enough of it for long enough to really live in it. But the Batman, they filmed it in Scotland, right? They have buildings with gargoyles and that stone and
totally.
You're right. It's inhabiting the cities, the places, with imbuing them with the power that they have in the comics is a thing that still isn't fully the shit yet in the movies.
It's a thing that I like about DC that Marvel does, and I think but Marvel's just like, these are the real cities, and so it's like,
I mean, here's the thing though, like, we go to Wakanda in a few movies. We even see, like, street level, market level and shit in Black Panther. But the only things I really remember about Wakanda from the movies are the costuming things and some of the tech.
Yeah.
I don't really feel like I inhabit that space the way that, like, Schumacher's Gotham is, like, insane. Those Leviathan statues, like an observatory on top of a, like, 1,000-foot statue. Like, that shit's yeah, I know what you mean. It's a lot cooler.
All right, next question comes from Crimson Raven, who asks, do you think these films would have worked better working towards one big event, or taking their time with individual characters instead of shoving them together so quickly?
I mean, it's hard
should they have not tried to jump on Marvel's bandwagon and, like...
It's hard to deny that the slow burn of phase 1 and 2 of Marvel paid off.
Yeah.
And allowed them the space to do these greater, crossovers and team ups leading up to and including Infinity War and Endgame.
Totally.
You can't deny that.
Yeah.
I want to and do believe that's not the only way to do it. I don't think DC figured it out.
I agree.
Because they were rushing. Yeah. They were like, we're falling too far behind already.
Yeah.
But I liked the idea of the kernel of the pitch of Batman v Superman is we can introduce a character. It's sort of a sequel to one character, but we're bringing a new one in. It's kind of a movie for them too. And we can bring in a major villain of the team.
Yep.
In Lex Luthor. That's not the way Justice League shakes out, but like, you're sort of putting, like, it's like doing, like, Iron Man and then Civil War, I guess.
Sure.
It's not necessarily the best way to do it, but it also worked, I think. Like, I like that concept. what came after, like Wonder Woman's thing, it's nice that she got a standalone. And I like that it's a period piece in that. And I like that we just get to see her in her own thing, and it's basically disconnected, and we know who she is. And then when we saw her a bit in BVS, but now we get her and we see her in Justice League. I think that works. I don't think I think Suicide Squad doesn't fit there. I know what they were doing. Superman's dead. The government panics. We need to bring these people. But like, we've barely seen that powers exist. And then all of a sudden the government's been sitting on a crocodile man for however long.
Yeah.
You know, and a witch and all this kind of shit. And it feels like there needs to be like something else in there. So maybe I'm pitching like there's Man of Steel. There's, you know, a Batman v Superman type thing. Something else in there has to give us access to the sort of secret history of metahumans, because we sort of learn that like people believe metahumans are out there, but I haven't really seen them.
Yeah. So
we need something that taps into that, and I don't know if that means that's a Flash movie, or if that means it's a Man of Steel sequel, or if that means it's a whatever. Something else had to be in there other than Suicide Squad, I think, because it's weird to be like, the government is like knocked off their fucking ass in Man of Steel by the presence of aliens. Yeah. And the aliens is a big step, but is it that big of a step when you already know there's a witch?
Yeah, there's magic.
And I think part of that is just Man of Steel came out and they weren't it wasn't like, and this will launch a universe, but then they were like, we could do it off this.
Yeah.
So part of it's just not the forethought thing. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
I mean, it's the same thing with Marvel. I mean, they didn't know Iron Man was going to do that, but they still managed to like take their fucking time.
They were just taking more time. I think what I'm trying to say is DC was never going to take that kind of time. It was always going to be a different model. But I do think it was overly rushed. There's some steps missing in there, and I'm not sure what they are. Maybe it's like Cyborg. Maybe it's breaking his origin out of the Justice League movie, so the Justice League movie could be a little bit more about the event. Like, I like that his arc is really crucial in that movie, but I think it still would be. But you could take the time with his dad and all of that kind of shit earlier, and you'd be like, oh, there's people like, because that's his whole thing, he's hiding, right? You'd be like, oh, they're hiding everywhere, blah blah blah. And then when you do the Suicide Squad, you go, well, they're hiding everywhere. It's just that one piece in there, you know. Maybe it's that. I don't know.
I just think they needed a few more movies before they did Justice League.
Yeah,
I think it just felt rushed.
But again, I don't know. There's a part of me that just for the sake of variety, I want to be like, but you didn't have to do it that way. You could do it quicker, but maybe there's just not a good way to do it. I don't know.
All right, next question comes from the marvelous Ryan, who asks, would this universe have fit better if it was all the weird nightmare future?
Oh, no. It's funny to me that, you know, because we're never going to get Justice Leagues 2 and 3.
Yeah.
That whole nightmare future thing.
It's just a weird thing.
A weird tangent. There's a part of me that kind of loves it. It becomes like apocryphal. Like, you go back years later, you'll watch Batman v Superman, you'll totally forget that Barry shows up in a fucking dream in the middle of that. And you go, wait, what was this? And you go, wow, they never came back to that.
Yeah. So weird.
That's kind of funny to me.
It's so weird.
No, short answer is no. That wouldn't have worked. But cool costume design for Batman, though. I like the coat with the cowl. Hard to deny that's a cool look.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Next question comes from Mullet Overlord, who asks, what do you think Snyder's Wonder Woman was up to during the last century? What was she doing during the 1940s?
Right, because the idea is that they have their adventure in World War I. Steve dies, and then she shuts herself off. She disappears, basically, from humanity, or is living among us, but is not
engaging,
and she's kind of distant or whatever. and flirting with Bruce at a party for 20 minutes, and then almost getting on a plane. Then she's like, no, now it's time, and she shows up. Whatever. I mean, I guess she's just working at museums and shit.
I imagine she's...
I don't think even in Snyder's version she could have been totally disconnected. She must have been like secretly saving.
She still like stopped that robbery. Like,
I mean, that's post BVS though. So theoretically, that's after she's like made the decision to re-engage a bit. You know, and certainly in the wake of Superman's death to step up.
Yeah.
You know, I got to imagine though she would have to still be doing like secret saving.
Yes.
And stuff like that.
I would imagine so. She doesn't feel like she could just like passively like not engage.
It does. Yeah. I mean, that not for that long. Again, this is Snyder's thing of like one bad thing happens to you and then the world gets, it's like he refuses to believe that people can like transcend those things. Like that's the Snyder pessimism, right? It's like the whole point of Superman and Wonder Woman is that they move past those things. Man's world must be fucking horrifying for Diana.
Yeah.
Think of how she grew up for 1,000 years in paradise. It must be constant, uninterrupted horror for her. And yet, Wonder Woman's empathy and compassion never stops shining through. She keeps fighting for us and she keeps seeing the best in us. And that's the thing where Snyder's like, well, that doesn't make sense. That's not what would happen. It's like, it's the pessimism of Snyder.
Totally. All right. Next question comes from Andre Smith, who's asked, what DC characters that he didn't include in his universe do you think would be the best fit for a grim, dark Snyder take? The worst? I have my best, but my worst would be... I don't have a best, but my worst would be Kyle Rayner.
Oh, okay. Do you have... what would be a great character to get the Snyder treatment? All of those things we've been discussing, good and bad. What would be a good character for him to take on?
I mean, it's not the thing that I like about this character, but I think you could probably easily fit in somebody like Lobo.
Oh, 100%.
Like
Lobo belongs in a Snyder movie.
Yeah.
Especially if you get that kind of, I mean, it's not what we were getting at DC, but if you get that kind of like cheeky Snyder, like Army of the Dead kind of Snyder, a Lobo movie or Lobo in a movie would be, like in a Superman sequel, would be fucking fun.
Yeah.
That's a great call.
Yeah.
Who would be the worst for Snyder to take on?
Blue Beetle?
Right.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
I think
any Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
They're all the wrong choice.
It's like he is such like a Spider-Man vibe to me that like I don't want that. Yeah.
I think Snyder doing Black Adam would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, totally.
A Snyder Black Adam.
It feels like what they're trying to like embody with that new movie, anyways.
I mean, I think that Black Adam would be a little too like sanded off for Snyder, and weirdly, you take some of what he was giving to Superman, give it to Black Adam, and like that's a great movie.
I think
you know what I mean. Like you put some of those same things. If you just pretend Man of Steel or whatever doesn't exist, you just take some of the same themes and ideas, and even the approach to the big fight and the destruction, the collateral damage, and you put that in a Black Adam movie. You're like, that shit fucking rules.
Yeah.
I think Black Adam's a good one. Yeah. I wouldn't want him to touch like Plastic Man.
No.
You know, I think that's fair.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I wouldn't want him to touch, I don't know, Superman. Good thing that didn't happen.
Here's the craziest thing.
Yeah.
The moral of some of these movies gets muddy and doesn't work in a lot of these Snyder movies.
Yeah.
Some of the but moment to moment, there's some really good stuff in there. And I think maybe that's also what's so frustrating about these movies is that you can't throw it all out. It's not top to bottom hot garbage.
Yeah.
There's stuff there and then you go, but you had it.
Yeah.
Why did you pick this thing over here? Like you captured the moment. You know, like you have a nice moment with like him and his mom or something. You go like, how is this not the movie?
Yeah.
But then it becomes this like other thing.
I think if we were to not get Batman v Superman and instead we got like Green Lantern Sinestro, like I feel like that would work really well for him.
That'd be cool.
That feels like a good, like, that vibe of like you were the best of us. Like, what were you?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, I dig that. Yeah.
Feels like very much those two.
I like the Lobo pitch.
I know.
Lobo's a big one.
I know. You could just see him walking with a big fucking chain and just like, yeah.
Because Snyder would like every moment of that would be like, just like oozing in like all that, like that stuff that Snyder's like, it's cinema, you know, like the slow shots, the pan, like these big chains, chugging a beer, smash it, big motorcycle, belching
he would have
smoke.
Loved it, yeah.
It would have looked, oh God, that'd be good.
Yeah. Yeah, just still just Jason Momoa instead. Like,
yeah.
Like, I mean,
there is a kingdom, there is a king.
Jesus Christ. I'll never see eye to eye on that. All right, next question. From Butt Booberry.
Okay.
Who asks,
oops, all butts.
Yeah, numb. Since WB Discovery has signaled that they want to embrace the Snyderverse, what do you think we'll be getting movie-wise in the next few years?
I think that might be slightly overstated.
Yeah, that seems not true.
But I know what you mean. You know, Batfleck showing up in Aquaman.
Sure, yeah.
There's the rumor that there's a Cavill cameo for, or another neck down cameo of Superman in Black Adam or something, like some shit like that. There's kind of rumors of those things. There was that rumor that WB was trying to actively court Henry Cavill again, so maybe get another Superman movie or something. Those things I'm all for. I think it is an overstatement to say that that is a commitment to the Snyderverse. I think, if anything, to quote Batman in Justice League, I'm just fixing a mistake, just undoing a mistake. You know what I mean? They'd be like, you were in 3 movies and you basically didn't get to be the Superman that you wanted to be, or that we know you are. We'd like to give you at least one shot to do it.
Yeah.
Now, listen, that whole everything there seems to be like a real shit show, so who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing I was talking about before. Try to keep the things that are good. Cavill is good. The material he had to work with is not his fault. Cavill is a good Superman, and Affleck is a good Batman. So keep them around. And then if they're too old or they don't want to or whatever, then let them move on. And either you don't use the characters for a bit, because DC is a rich and powerful tapestry of many characters. We actually don't need Superman and Batman present.
Yeah.
Even though it's slightly disappointing. You don't need them.
No.
Or you recast them and you just go like, oh, it's the same one that's been here the whole time. We go, all right.
Exactly.
It's fine. Yeah, fine. Did I answer that?
I think you did.
Okay.
Yeah. Last question.
Okay.
From the Chairnarchist, who asks, why is the Doc such a Snyder apologist?
I want to clarify. I'm a Snyder movie apologist. I'm not an apologist for Snyder himself, who's a real dick.
Yeah.
Listen, it's like I said, every time I've read a criticism about Man of Steel or Batman v Superman or Justice League, I'm like, yeah, I get it. Yep. You're absolutely right. In Man of Steel, we don't see Superman save basically anybody. That's a problem in a Superman movie. Like, in an abstract sense, he saves everybody, but that's not really what we're here to see. So I agree with those things, but there's stuff. I think it's partly like there's a visual sensibility that I like that Snyder has.
Yeah.
It's not the washed out color shit, but it's the movement of the camera. You know, I don't know all of the terms, so I'm going to sound like a real dumbass here, but like when a camera's like following him flying and then it does the like punch in kind of thing.
Oh, sure.
The camera's doing that J.J. Abrams kind of shaky, we're really there thing, and then the camera kind of like that stuff like works on me, that like, oh, we're really in it.
Yeah.
I like those like over the shoulder shots of him like flying and punching or something.
Sure.
I think I'm a sucker for some of his like slow-mo stuff. It's so easy to clown on Snyder's slow-mo. I totally get it. But like when that door opens in Man of Steel and he steps out and you see the cape and the music is going brum, 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 brum. Like how can you not be like moved? I'm like, holy shit, he's Superman.
Yeah.
Does the rest of it live up to that? Not really. But when those things are in there, or you know, the warehouse fight, that warehouse fight in PVS
it's so good.
It's so good. And you watch it, you go like, the movie should be this. And those things, I can't stop. I'm into them. And I don't know what it is about the way he shoots or his aesthetic. That shit fucking works for me. The kind of like melodramatic, really like kind of scenery chewing shit. I'm there for it. I just wish someone had a better capacity to land that plane. But like I'm into it. So
yeah,
you know, I like those movies. I like a lot of the performances. I like the looks of them, kind of color grading thing aside. I think the action, when there is action, is really like fun and like dynamic and stuff. I don't know. I'm into it. Aquaman like flying in the air and stabbing the parademon and surfing one down. Like that shot is too long.
Yeah.
like it's by any other metric, like we hold on that shot way too long and not enough happens in it. And I still just fucking love it.
My man.
I don't know.
My man.
I don't have a good answer for you. I like those movies, flaws and all. I can't help it. That's who I am.
That's all right. That's why I keep you around.
I just got to be me.
Because it got to be me.
Oh, it's got to be me.
Nice. That was the last question. But we are not done yet.
Shit.
It's time to play every shit. Oh, shit.
Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. Oh, no.
It's time to play everybody's favorite game. Can you guess the name of the character based on who someone who does not read comic books can describe that character to us? If you don't know how it's played, I sent a photo, most likely in the form of an illustration, of a DC character to my wife who does not read comic books, nor does she care for them. She sends back 4 clues describing what she sees.
A photo in the form of an illustration.
Yeah. Tell me that's not wrong.
I mean, it is true, but good Lord.
All right. 4 clues. First clue. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
First clue. Ginger.
Barbara Gordon.
No.
Elongated Man.
No.
Iris West. Wally West.
No.
Roy Harper.
Nope.
Next clue.
Next clue. Cheekbones to die for.
Maxima.
No.
Artemis.
Nope.
Next clue.
Third clue of 4. Super jacked, like come on, like come to daddy.
Orion.
Nope.
Light Ray.
Nope.
Guy Gardner.
Nope.
Last clue.
Last clue. Russian moon landing.
Russian moon landing?
Yep.
Rocket Red?
Nope.
Russian moon landing. Which at best I think means the colors are red and white. Red hair.
Mm-hmm.
Or sorry, ginger.
Ginger.
Cheekbones to die for.
Yes.
So jacked. Come on, daddy.
Yeah.
And Russian moon landing.
That's correct.
Vostok X or
no.
So jacked.
Mm-hmm.
Well, shit. Okay, hang on. Russian moon landing. What does that mean? Red hair. Ginger.
Mm-hmm.
Cheekbones. To die for. Ultra?
No.
Vartox? He's not red-haired.
Nope.
Ginger. Cheekbones. So jacked. Russian moonlander. I'm going to go weird on the Atrocitus?
No. Uh-oh.
I don't know. I don't even feel like I'm close to it. I feel pretty lost.
You got close.
Did I?
Yeah.
With Rocket Red?
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, I'm saying I didn't get it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's probably the closest you got.
Okay. So who was it?
The character is Red Star.
Fuck.
That's right. The first appearance in Teen Titans. This is Leonid Kovar, and his father discovered a derelict spacecraft in the Yenisei River. The teenage Leonid was bathed in alien energies emanating from the craft, giving him superpowers.
Oh, shit. Well, yeah, I wouldn't have gotten that. The clues are all very good. Yeah, I would not have gotten that.
Red Star.
Well, shit. There you go.
Fucking love this book.
I know you do. Yeah.
Oh my god, it takes so much time. What I did with Jess today, I literally just was like, tell me when to stop.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
And then I was like, don't look at any of the names. Which of these characters would you want to do? And she was like, that one. And I was like, all right.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't have gotten that one. That was a good pick.
What a
Red
douche.
Star. There you go.
God, he is jacked.
Oh yeah, he's sliced.
Yeah, and diced.
Slice of dice.
That is it for this week. If you have maybe a question about next week's episode?
Yeah, next week we've got special guests lined up. Do you know what? Fuck it, I'll say it. And if it doesn't happen, it's because life happens and schedules are tough. We're having Ron Swallow and Ed Greer on from The Greatest Pod. They're coming on next week, and we're going to be talking about the Bat Family. So send your questions about La Familia, La Familia Rata Alada.
Jesus, the Bat Family.
Yeah. El Rata Alada, not La. You don't know the difference between L and La.
That is a really bad reveal.
Well, but do you remember what the actual reveal is? Because the clue is you are El Rata Alada, and he goes, you are El Rata Alada, and then he types in rataalada.com, and it goes to where it's URL Rata, because the mistake is deliberate.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Am I the only one here that speaks Spanish? No habla español, huh?
So embarrassing. Great, beautiful movie. Great acting.
I love you, Colin Farrell. But yeah, so send your questions about the Bat Family for next week's episode.
Yeah, to our Facebook.
I almost said go do the video. Dr. DC Podcast.
Twitter.
At Dr. DC.
Instagram.
Dr. DC Podcast.
Yeah, our email.
DrDCPodcast@gmail.com.
You can jump on our subreddit.
r/Dr_DC.
The doc phone, baby.
208-917-3238.
It's 208-917-DCEU. We got
if
pizza
you're
brain.
Nasty.
We got, it's poutine brain.
Yeah.
We are young and cool. What's on? We're on TikTok.
Yeah, at Dr. DC.
You're old and irrelevant. That's why we're on a website.
Yeah, URL drdcpodcast.com.ca.
Why don't you give us a 5-star review, and we will read it on a future episode of the show. You're also working towards that 200 mark, so that when the Lord of the Rings TV show comes out, you'll also get a little mini-series from us.
That's right. Who knows when or how we'll record it, but
that's not the question.
That's future us's problem.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Then also you can send us some physical mail.
Ooh.
That's right, to either Richard Eden or Reed Vanier at 301 Hogue Street. It's Hoge Street in Whitehorse, Yukon, Canada, Y1A1V8. Also, if you want to give us a few shekels and get something out of it, you can jump on our Patreon.
Patreon.com/DrDC. There's a $1, $5, $7 level. They all give you access to the Doc Squad, our awesome Discord fan community. And at the higher levels, you get bonus episodes, you get theme polls, articles, videos, all sorts of fun stuff that helps support us all month long. On the Patreon, it's Eatgust.
Yeah,
we're
and
doing
truths were revealed.
Canadian Foods Month. We learned something amazing about Richard's dad. So tune in. That's the Silver Age tier or higher, $5 and $7 levels.
If you don't got the money to spare, but you want more content from us, well, we have a whole other podcast.
That's right, Ghostfacers, a
Cheap
Supernatural rewatch. We're going through every single episode of the CW Supernatural. We are almost through season 5.
That's right,
and we talk about real world monster lore, behind the scenes stuff about the show. We have some fun guests. It's a great time. Go check it out.
That is it. Ciao, ciao.
Adios.
Heroes. They always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure. They are men of might.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.